Welcome to the Las Vegas IT Management Podcast. And today I have the pleasure to be speaking to Steve Hernandez, who is a cyber threat hunter with Agile Defense. Hey, Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, really good. Super, super excited to be here. I've been looking forward to it since you brought up the message in LinkedIn.
Yeah, yes. LinkedIn's an amazing place to make connections, which I'm really excited for. Steve, can you explain what a cyber threat hunter does and what a typical day looks like for you at Agile Defense?
Okay, yeah, of course. So currently, I'll get into it without getting into it because I work for the government, so all my work is cleared. But from a generic standpoint, uh, my team provides defensive cyber for the military in this part of the world. So I'm currently not in Las Vegas, born, raised all Las Vegas, but since joining the military, I've been gone from Las Vegas since about 19 years old. So I go back and forth, but I'm currently living in Qatar, so in the Middle East, and lucky enough to do threat hunting with Agile Defense. And yeah, we take the threat intelligence, which is essentially just information about anything that can harm the company, both inside and out, and provide that to our stakeholders and let them know what their security posture is.
Got it. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And you did mention there's, of course, things that you can't mention because you do work for the government. But how has it been like working in, you said Qatar? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, Qatar,
Qatar.
Middle East.
How's that been? Middle Eastern.
It's definitely a culture shock. Over here is a big melting pot. So every day I get to work with people from different countries and get to learn about them. And it just opens up your horizons because in Las Vegas, I was in a tiny bubble. And that's with Las Vegas being a melting pot as it is. Being over here just expanded exponentially, but it's been really good.
Got it. And I'm sure it's a culture shock, being in Las Vegas, as you said, it is a melting pot, which I personally love about being here. But as you said, it's different in where you're currently at, which is awesome. We did talk about, or you did share with us what you currently do, but with cyber threats constantly evolving, how do you stay ahead of the curve in identifying potential threats before they become a serious issue?
Okay. So we get reports from different companies and different agencies in the world. And from that, we're able to see what matters most to us. And you kind of pick up on, because at the end of the day, all the threats are people. So you learn about their tactics, their behavior, what they use over time. So we take the root of it and we apply defenses towards that. So although we can't predict what the next malware or something that will go bad against the company will be, we're able to kind of forecast for it.
Got it. That totally makes sense. And so I guess I know you can't share a lot with us because you are, working for the government. But are there any examples that you could possibly share with us of kind of things that you've seen and maybe just, speaking in general?
Okay, in general, I would say essentially every day there's a new report coming out. There's, and these are published all throughout the internet. Uh, a lot of it's public information with certain softwares that might go bad. So every day there's something new. So, certain example, a lot of companies use Windows. I think it accounts for 90% of companies out there. So, threat actors might be looking to target Windows since everyone's using that. Or for networking equipment, Cisco is a big networking provider. So, they're always looking at trying to poke holes in it. So, from our standpoint, any cyber threat hunter will look at the software or hardware holistically and try to see where these threat actors might try to interject themselves. See, like, okay, this is the boundary of our company's network. They could try to use malware or phishing, try to target an employee. For people that don't know, phishing is sending something corrupt or malicious through email. So that's one of the biggest attack vectors. So they might try to send a phishing email to someone within the organization, and once they click on that, it can trigger their exploit where they try to take advantage of, say, the Windows environment, and that's when they could try to steal corporate data.
Got it. And the last couple podcasts, someone did mention there was a few casinos here in Las Vegas that's happened too. I'm sure you've heard so many stories of, someone's clicking on something that they shouldn't have. That is something that we talk about all the time on this podcast. And I'm just curious, your title, Cyber Threat Hunter, sounds pretty like a cool title. Like, how did you get into that position?
Well, I could give the full background or just the
Just whatever
past.
you like to share with us.
I started with a passion for computers. My parents got like a big old computer back in the old days. I think I was in middle school, and I was on there every day trying to mess with it, messing with the cables. I was the one setting up the Wi-Fi for them. So I was about to graduate high school. I was like, oh, well, what do I want to do with life? I'm like, I really like computers. So I wanted to do something related to that, but I didn't want to commit to the student loans and student debt of college. And I wanted to do something bigger than myself. So I decided to join the Marine Corps. And they put me in the communications field, which is very broad. And they're like, okay, you're going to work on satellites. I'm like, what? But I learned satellites. Then, about halfway through my time with them, they're like, oh, we have a unique opportunity. You're the person we want to do it. So that's when I was stepping into becoming a manager. They asked me to lead the team where they manage all the SharePoint websites for the Pacific region. So Japan, Korea, parts of Australia. Like, we want you to manage the team that controls and governs those websites. So I'm like, okay. I was able to get into that and got to learn about coding and website development. I really enjoyed that. Then the Marine Corps had a program for people separating, which is a Microsoft Software and Systems Academy, which is a really great opportunity. I got to spend 6 months with some of the smartest people in the country at Microsoft, and they provided mentorship and guidance from a technical standpoint and a soft skill standpoint. So that that program was specialized in cybersecurity. So after leaving, I got a job at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. I worked there for a year, and then an opportunity from one of my friends came up, like, "Hey, there's a lot going on in the Middle East. I know you're in cybersecurity. This is right up your alley." So I decided to apply. They selected me. Then, like 2 weeks later, they're like, "Okay, get ready. You're coming over here." So I started off as a regular security analyst, using the security tools to monitor the network. But as time progressed, I I landed a more senior role, which was more specialized.
Got it. Well, thank you for sharing that, Steve. And that seems like a pretty exciting journey. All the different locations that you worked at or, that helped you to be where you're at today. But what are some of the most common misconceptions people have about cybersecurity, especially in the context of IT management?
I think a lot of organizations see cybersecurity as something external, like not part of the core organization. They're like, "Oh, this extra work. We don't want to do this. We're just doing this for compliance." Um, so the biggest challenge is trying to bridge that gap between the users, the company, and management, and building cybersecurity into it, and finding a moderate risk level where you're meeting compliance and everyone is still happy, which is a very difficult medium to sort out because sometimes you'll have a user come by and they're like, "Oh, we can't access this." Well, it's blocked by one of the firewalls, but they don't understand the reasoning behind it. But I think through communication and trying to understand each other, that's where that bridge is met and made.
Got it. So pretty much the way that you build that or bridge that gap is through communicating with the people on the importance of the reason for the protection. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And then so you've served as an ambassador of the Department of Defense to multiple countries. Can you share an experience or project that stood out to you during that time? If you can share
Yes.
that.
Yeah, most of it I can't share, but one that was public knowledge was I got to work with the Filipino government and work together with the US government, and I was their website designer, so I built the website that they used. So bridging that gap also once again to be able to share information in a legal way without anyone getting in trouble.
Got it. And I'm sure with that, as you said, just the culture differences of the US and you said Asia, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm sure that was you
Specifically.
said
Yeah.
bridging that gap. I'm sure that was something that you had to do as well. And then what were some of the unique challenges you faced while collaborating with international organizations on cybersecurity? And how did you overcome them? If whatever you could share with us, of course.
Yeah, with different organizations, they have their how they view cybersecurity. So being able to talk to them and feel their frustrations and understand their point of view, but being able to once again find that happy medium.
Got it. And then, you did mention that as you said before, and then to do so, I guess it's just communicating the importance as we mentioned.
Yes.
Gotcha.
One
Uh,
one important speaker on LinkedIn that speaks a lot to threat intelligence and cybersecurity. His name is Chris Cochran, and he talks about it as storytelling. A lot of cybersecurity is done through being able to effectively communicate that story.
got
Uh,
it. What were you gonna say, Steve?
Yeah, because most people don't understand cybersecurity, so being that middle ground between like as a manager, uh, you're filling that storytelling aspect versus say one of my analysts or engineers. They're more focused on the implementation and the technical work behind it. Uh, as a manager, you sit take the step outside and get the big picture view of how it affects the organization.
Got it, which totally makes sense. And that's awesome. And I feel like the same thing for management for us as well. Making sure that you do see that full picture. And then also, you're known for being a supportive mentor and a servant leader. What do you think is the key effective mentorship in the field of cybersecurity?
The key, I think it could apply to any department, not just cybersecurity, is at the very basic people is understanding who you work with. Everyone is unique and they all have their different needs and wants. So when I was studying technical management, one of the big things that was covered was uh, Maslow's hierarchy principles of like social needs and self desires. Yes, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So it talks about the different levels for everyone, and it all starts with physical needs. It's hard to get someone focused on the company if they're not being paid enough to pay the rent and feed themselves or have a shelter over themselves. And the deeper you go into the pyramid, you eventually get to self actualization and getting your employees to work on projects that they think are fun and they want to be engaged in that.
Got it. What are some ways that you do to do that, or do you use?
I think a key skill is active listening. So,
Got it. And that's true.
so
So thank you. And then how do you manage and you did kind of say this, you said that the key step is listening. But how do you manage and motivate hybrid teams, especially in high velocity environments where security operations are critical?
yes, being in a hybrid or because we have a sister team back in the States, and without getting too much into details, uh, we have to collaborate a lot. So, being able to have a medium to be able to talk fast and also having regular meetings to be able to sync up on big picture items. So, being able to motivate each other and motivate the other team is understanding the impact of our work and making sure they understand that, because the if a security incident happens due to the lack of effort of one of the analysts, it could cause danger and harm to national security. So making sure they understand that what they do matters. Sometimes that could be through just a Teams meeting or just an email, but having the constant assurance into them, making sure we're all on the same page.
Got it. And so you guys communicate that through team meetings and emails and stuff like that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Awesome.
even just regular phone calls.
Yeah, phone calls are key as well, taking it back to the basics. And when it comes to your opinion, what are the key elements of a solid strategic plan for cybersecurity operations in a company?
Key elements.
Hmm.
I think the most important is stakeholder buy-in, making sure senior management, top level executives, people the cybersecurity department reports to, making sure they have buy-in. And once again, that done through effective communication and storytelling. Because if you don't have top level management support, it's very difficult to enforce cybersecurity policies. And it can be as simple as someone wanting to bring in their personal laptop into an environment that's not allowed. They could be like, "Oh, it's just my laptop. I trust myself." And they'll come to the cybersecurity department, and the cybersecurity department says no. The cybersecurity team looks like the bad guys. But if there isn't a policy put in place by senior management, then the cybersecurity team has no backing, and the trust will start to crumble. And if there is no buy-in, then the employees, the users, they could try to circumvent the cybersecurity policies. Like, oh, the director doesn't care about it, so let's just bring it in anyways.
Got it. No, that makes sense, Steve. And I'm sure that's something that happens very often where someone thinks that it's not going to be a problem for them to bring in that laptop. And I guess when it comes to, can you share an example of a time when a strategic planning helped you or your team quickly adapt to a challenge situation? I mean, of course, you can speak in general, but yeah, you could share that with us.
Can you say the question one more time?
No, of course. Can you share an example of a time when a strategic planning helped you or your team quickly adapt to a challenging situation?
I think in a just a general sense, the planning mentioned high velocity environments where it feels like everyone's running around with their heads on fire because everything's a priority. I think once you receive that feedback and people telling the team what's going on, setting up a plan to how to attack those and actually figure out what are priorities that can make a night and day difference. Because if there is no strategic planning, efforts could go to something that's very minimal. Instead, they could have been realigned to what matters more to the company.
Got it. And then how do you choose what's the priority?
Most of the time, it's not for us to decide. We're we're the middleman most of the
Got
time.
it.
So just talking to the stakeholders. So mention like dealing with different agencies and different teams. First, you have to align with what comes first in your chain and see what matters to them, and then you can start attacking it because it could be a priority for someone else, but it could be outside of your scope. And stepping outside of the scope could be a very big problem because you could try to tell someone something, and then if it goes wrong and you're outside of your scope, all it all comes back to you. So
Got
making
it.
sure with your direct supervisor, manager, making sure they're on board.
Okay, no, I totally understand that. And you do have a unique path, a career path, being both a cybersecurity professional and, you did tell me, or I did, get from your LinkedIn profile about being a real estate agent. How do these skills from your cybersecurity background translate to your work in real estate?
So I haven't been able to do as much real estate as I want because I'm in Qatar. So to truly be able to do real estate, you want to be on the ground, be in Las Vegas, be able to, if you need to show one of your friends or whoever it is, your client, a house, being able to do that. So being over here can't. But unfortunately, hopefully, in the near future, I can do more real estate because it's another one of my passions. But the similarities between, uh, if I'm not mistaken, you were asking the similarities between like cybersecurity and real estate.
Mhm.
That's a good question. Um,
You're like, let me
we-
think about that for a second.
So, being in cybersecurity and having that cybersecurity mindset, it's thinking about all the different attack points, all the different, just try to think about what can go wrong and what currently is going on. So when applying that to real estate, you have a house, but at the surface, everything looks good within the house. But once you start doing your cybersecurity audits, that's when you can do inspections on the home and be like, oh, actually, you have a leaky pipe, which could translate in cybersecurity to, oh, you have a software that isn't patched or at the latest version. Sure, right now it might not mean much because it hasn't been exploited, but who knows, 2 years down the road, that leaky pipe could break and flood the whole house, and that could cause a lot more damage than if you would have fixed it earlier.
Got it. So you're pretty much just saying just the foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And then okay, so, with technology becoming more integrated into real estate agents or real estate industries, how do you see cybersecurity playing a role ensuring safer transactions and protecting clients' information?
That's another good question. I At the brokerage I was working for, I already started to see more of the technology implementation. Had certain people that use automated workflows to be able to bid on houses that met criteria without even looking at the property. So that changed the game up quite a bit because it started turning into bidding wars on properties, and you want to be one of the first ones in there. But if you don't have the proper frameworks and protocols in place, that could turn really bad because you could be bidding on something that, and it could get accepted on something you don't want. But as far as protecting user information and keeping things confidential, I could foresee transactions and different contracts being written to the blockchain, which is one of the newer technologies where for everything that happens, there's a cryptographic computation that occurs, and you can specifically map a transaction to that cryptographic hash or transaction. So things can be backed by the blockchain. So that way, certain documents or contracts can't be denied. Like, no, it exists, it happened here. And with the blockchain and everything being done within a cryptographic means and secured that way, it can protect clients' data.
Got it. And then thank you for sharing that. What are some of the emerging trends in cybersecurity that businesses should be aware of, especially those in Las Vegas? Is there any that you could share with us?
Cybersecurity trends, trying to remember some because I just got back from vacation yesterday. So,
Why, we hope you had a good vacation.
I was in Athens, Greece. It was great.
I'm sure.
But as far as trends, there was, off the top of my head, there was, from a really technical standpoint, I saw that attackers were leveraging Windows DLL libraries, which are basically processes that take place when you initiate a program. And some of those happen when you boot up your computer or when you start a new program. So they were leveraging those and manipulating those to where things were happening in the background before you even realized. So that's one of the new trends. Then they're also taking advantage of Google Documents, Google Docs. So, because they used to be email and email attachments were the popular one, and but they started leaning towards Google Docs in that format. So, for the companies that use that, definitely keep your Google suite up to date.
Got it. Oh, and with Google Docs being on the cloud, how can a company keep their stuff up to date for Google
if
Docs?
it's fully cloud, that's a good question. It would be more up to Google's the one, since it's so new and it's affecting Google. They're the ones that came up with the patch, and they were the ones that fixed it. So in the early stages, it was for them to identify that it was being taken advantage of, which they have. But from a user standpoint, it's making sure you have the latest version of Google.
Got it. Understood. So when it comes to, your careers that you currently have, what has been the most rewarding aspects of your career so far? You know, in cybersecurity. and real estate, or you could just share one or the other.
They each have their good points throughout my time. It's hard to pick. I think one of the first early ones that mattered a lot to me was being in that role managing the websites for the Pacific region because I was in a position that was a lot higher than my current rank. They were able to trust me with that, was able to do that successfully for a couple of years, and just them continuing to have my support throughout that time meant a lot.
Got it. And also, as someone who's dedicated to mentoring others, what do you achieve through your guidance and leadership in both industries?
Through leadership and guidance, I can achieve that the world is a bit more secure with the people I'm entrusting to it. Because I know eventually I'm going to retire from cybersecurity through mentorship of the people underneath me and setting them on the right path. I know that our future is well protected. And from not too much from a real estate standpoint, because I haven't been able to practice that often.
Got it.
So,
No worries. And you did mention to me that you do have a YouTube channel. What's that YouTube channel about, and how can someone find it?
oh, yeah. So you can find it one by typing in my full name or at steve.stories spelled STORYS. And the main premise of my channel is just showing my unique perspective on life and uh, showing different cultures and experience to Americans and people from other parts of the world. Being in Qatar, I get experience and exposure to a lot more. For example, I'm, I get to see cars that aren't available in the US. So I'll do car reviews for cars that aren't available. I'll do hotel reviews from different places I'm traveling to, experience reviews. For example, one that's coming up soon is horseback riding in Santorini, Greece. And I show that whole process and it can help people decide if they want to do it or not. But from a culture aspect, one example is I interviewed a friend from Africa and he shows me a bit about his culture so that way I can share with the rest of the viewers.
Got it. And you seem very, very passionate about this project with YouTube. What caused you to start it?
Just realizing that a lot of people that I know don't have similar experiences and I want to be able to share it with them. And also I like the record keeping of the memories so that way I can look back on it.
Got it. No, I'm right there with you, Steve. And then just curious, what's next for you? Are there any new projects or goals that you're currently excited about?
Projects, I'm wrapping up my master's degree this month. Then start of the next year, oh, thank you. Start of next year, I'll hopefully be starting a PhD program. So I'm currently in the process of reviewing which school I want to go to, and hopefully do some more traveling and see where I can progress next in my cybersecurity career.
Awesome. And what did you get at your or what are you, and by the way, congratulations. What are you
Thank
getting
you.
your degree in?
It's in cybersecurity and information assurance.
Awesome. And then is that something similar to what you plan to do with your PhD?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Steve, it's been a pleasure. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to our viewers?
Well, first off, I just want to say thank you for sharing this time with me. It's been a blast being on the podcast. For the viewers, cybersecurity is one of those things that seem to be a buzzword, starting to be a bit more normalized, but it's a lot more than just compliance and having to follow rules. It can be really exciting, and just overall, we each individually have a story to tell. And talking to different people, you're able to share experiences and stories and be able to learn from each other.
Oh, pretty cool. And if someone is looking to connect with you, is it through your YouTube channel? How should someone do that?
They can find me on LinkedIn at Steve Hernandez Mejia, or they can go to my YouTube channel at steve.stories.
Awesome. And we'll be sure to put all that in the description. Well, Steve, thank you so much.